It's 6:32. We'll reconvene the Board of Finance budget hearings for the fiscal year 2016-2017 budget. This is the meeting February 11, 2016. And there is one matter as by way of agenda. From last meeting's agenda, matter 4159, Veteran Ceremony and Parade Commission. There was a misunderstanding that it may have been moved for tonight. Commission is here tonight, and we invite them to come to the board now unless any members have an objection. This is page, please have a seat. Page 33, 4159. Welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Mr. Mayor?
If anyone, when they address the board, if you just state your name and address for the record.
Tom Flowers, 21 Point Lookout, Chairman, Veteran Ceremony.
This was on the agenda for Tuesday night. Straightforward. Is there anything you'd like to say or any questions from the members of the board?
The only thing I would say is that our major expense is the purchase of flags for the graves of our veterans in our three Milford cemeteries. I just found out today that we have I believe it's 8 cents per flag cost increase. However, the budget will cover it. And when you buy 40 gross, 8 cents a flag is a lot of money.
Yeah.
But we're okay.
That's glad to hear. Thank you for your efforts. Any questions?
Who pays for the on the veterans grave? And there's like a stone, like a flat stone at the end.
The VA.
The VA. That's the VA does that with the rank and everything.
Well, the VA has gives the next of kin, if you will, an allowance strictly for that purpose.
Oh.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tom.
Next item on the agenda, Finance Department 4210. We have our own leader here this evening, page 37.
And I'd like to invite the other members of the Finance Department who'd like to come up to the stage.
Welcome, everyone.
If I start from the end of the table, we have Ariane Swift, our city accountant, Fred Bialka, purchasing agent, Dan Thomas, our assessor, and Susan Tapp, our tax collector.
Welcome.
I'll just begin by prefacing how extremely busy we've been in the past year against the backdrop of multiple staff vacancies. I think the employees and the division heads have done a tremendous job dealing with those vacancies and still dealing with all of the peaks and valleys of our operation cycle. More often than not, we've dealt with a lot of issues and problems and new mandates from the federal and state and local governments, as I've said in prior years. And I'll allow each of them to speak to that if necessary and to answer any questions you might have. Overall, our budget is relatively flat. I think one of the only line items that had a slight increase was the revaluation operations line item, and that's because we're beginning work on the revaluation, which is done every 5 years. So there's always been a need for an increase in that line item especially when revaluation comes into play. I'd like to thank the board's support over the years, especially the board and the mayor's support in funding our new accountant 1 position, and that position was just filled recently on last Monday, and we have Vernell Bethel, who has joined our department, and we're very excited to have her. She comes from the auditing firm Bloom Shapiro and has extensive experience with government audit, government financial accounting, and very excited to have her and look forward to training her and getting her up to speed and helping us with all the things that we have to do and the many projects that lie ahead. And I'd also like to thank everyone for their understanding of our department over the years. I think we're all aware of the various divisions within finance and all of the hard work that's put into what we do to keep the city running smoothly. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Any questions?
Peter, how come the projected for 15-16 is so much higher in the budget? Is that because of the revaluation work?
Let's see.
If I look at the overtime and the seasonal temporary,
Yes. Yeah, we have a higher projection for overtime because we have been making administrative transfers due to the need to compensate for the vacancies in the assessor's office and in the tax office. We've been down 1 or 2 people at a given time. We still have a vacancy of a certified clerk in tax that we're trying to fill, and a clerk A position we're trying to fill an assessor. We recently filled the deputy assessor,
okay?
and so we've been behind, and that's why the overtime has a higher projection.
Okay, it looks like that's fixed, right? If I look at the mayor's recommended budget, it's virtually the same as the 15-16 budget.
Yeah.
So the overtime's going back to normal and the seasonal temporary is going back to normal.
Yes.
It was to compensate for the absences.
Right.
Right.
Right, but you're confident that's going to happen?
We're confident that we're going to fill the positions, yes. We have every
Okay.
intention to do so. And return to full staffing levels and bring the overtime back to normal.
Okay.
In that same point, in that same point, why aren't we projecting the regular wages at a lower amount if these positions aren't filled? I assume that those funds will go back into the general fund if you don't spend those, that
Yes.
wage amount.
Yes, correct.
But in projections, you wouldn't project that,
Yeah.
you're not that fine in projecting them, is that what we're saying?
That's a good point. Yeah, we're not that exact in all of the projections, but when we do come to talking about the surplus with this board later in the year and with the rating agencies after the year close, yes, that's correct. There would be surpluses in the wages, but to be conservative, we normally just project the full amount,
As if they've been
as if they would be filled relatively quickly.
We wouldn't do that in business. Absolutely not.
No, you wouldn't.
You couldn't. All right, in the same area, the reevaluation operations, we've been carrying substantial amounts, 36,000, 26,000. Is that every year we're carrying this going back? I haven't looked back. Why are we carrying that much amount of money when the reevaluation is, what are we doing the reevaluation?
I think if you take a step back, and Dan can help me with this
Yeah.
too, my understanding was that instead of hitting the budget all at once with this large number at time of reval, or even when working on the appeals, the cases, et cetera, it was just good to fund it on a relatively level basis each year in the budget and put it in the revaluation reserve account, so that you wouldn't have a big increase in a given year, or at least mitigate the increase. So that's why it hasn't been, say, zero in a given year. We've always
Okay, so we budgeted this, and where does this fund go? You're not spending it in each one of these years, right?
Actually, we do spend
We've spent
some
some
of
of it. yeah.
Some of it.
I'll let
And
Dan
some-
talk.
yes.
The rest goes into a reserve account?
Correct. Just rolls over to the next year.
We don't spend it out of here. We transfer it into the reval reserve account, and the expenses flow from there.
From that account?
From that account.
We don't see that account then?
No, you don't. I mean, you see the annual contribution, similar to the health insurance, like that, we fund a contribution each year, and that goes into the health insurance fund, and the expenses get charged to the health insurance fund. So the expenses are being charged to the reval Fund 40 account.
The Fund 40
Yes.
account. Here we go. All right. So why do we ask for 59 and we're approving 45?
Good question.
Good question.
Yeah.
Dan and I had a conversation about this, and again, absent clairvoyance, we don't know exactly how much we're gonna spend. He gave projections, mine were a little bit more conservative,
Mhm.
but again, we have been funding, if you look back at the history for the last 4 years, $36,500. We looked at that versus the 2011 reval year, and what the total amount was. There are some other rooms in the budget if we do need to make a transfer in order to finalize this, but again, we did pare it back from the $59,000 to the $45,000, an increase over previous years, just because we think that the overall amount is going to be a little bit more than if we had just contributed the $36,500.
You could reduce the budget for that, and make it at 35,000, right?
Yeah.
Right, and then come back.
Yeah.
I like to do
And Dan, if you can weigh in too, in terms of your projections,
Well, right.
the
in other
overall
words,
amount.
Yeah, the reason for the increase this particular year is this is where the bulk of the work is put into the revaluation is done. So you,
it. I got my letter.
yes, and a lot of that work is overtime. So we put a lot of overtime, and that's why the increase in the budget. And we pared it back because we are pretty efficient, and the efficiency is also defined by how much we roll over each year. So, like, again, it's a crapshoot as to, at the end of the day, how much we're
Why
going
are
to
we
spend.
running overtime on this? I don't understand that.
Because we do in-house reassessment.
Right.
Most towns do not. Most towns contract outside with them. We happen to have the capability to do so, but it does require additional hours over and above what normal assessment would require.
What period of time are you doing the reassessments? 2 years, 1 year?
Year and a half.
Actual physical.
Year and a half, we would have preferred, but because we were down with one deputy for 8 months this year, we're actually behind in that respect. So there will be significant overtime from this time forward, most likely. Like I said, we're pretty efficient. I've done, this will be my 3rd one here, so.
I'm not
Cut
questioning,
it
I
down.
understand
Yeah,
that.
I'm just saying, that's what's gonna happen.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think that was the area I had. Yes.
Good. Is there anything further? Thank you all for coming out.
Thanks a lot.
Board of Assessment Appeals.
Same thing increased because of anticipated hearings. The amount that we budgeted is about 2/3 what we had budgeted in prior to reassessments. Those were both budgeted at 18,000 for the board. This year we budgeted 10. Again, the market's been flat for 5 years, so we don't anticipate a lot of activity as it might be, but you need to plan for some.
We anticipate that any assessments are heading in the negative direction?
It's hard to say at this point. I mean, if so, it would be slight.
Yeah.
If so, it would be slight, but there, so. Our ratio for the 3 months prior to October 1 was 70%, which is what it's supposed to be at the end of a revaluation. So that would tell you the market's been flat. It's actually going up and down. And there are some neighborhoods that are doing better now and recovering from the storm, others that haven't recovered as well. So everything else, certain markets residentially are different than others, say commercial and industrial.
There's no question? Thank you. No.
The seasonal temporary, who does that work?
Yeah, we have a clerk comes in and does data maintenance primarily from our review function. Also the paper that you got in the mail.
Huh? Oh, yeah,
Yeah, paper you got.
yeah. Is that an outside person coming in?
Yeah.
Previously experienced supposedly, or what?
We can train, We can train that, yes. But it's additional clerical work that we'd rather not do in-house. Again, our staff is occupied.
And the other remuneration, what does that consist of?
That's for the board members. Those are the actual board members,
Oh, that's
board of
right.
assessment fees.
Most of the boards, I think, actually all of the boards in the city of Milford are volunteer. However, just because this board meets during 9 to 5 business hours, there is a small stipend for the 3 members that are on that board.
Mhm. That makes sense.
Joe got his letter this year, I got my letter last year, so this is an ongoing process.
Yes.
Did you like yours? The budget.
Is there an
I had
online
to fill out.
process to do?
Yes,
To do it online?
I would have to fill it out and mail it back.
Oh, you do online. Well, maybe yours did, now we can.
Certain things we do online, but not reevaluation related.
No. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dave.
Management Information System, excuse me, 4215, page 39.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello, hello. Jean Lazat, I'm the MIS coordinator here in the city, 4215. And I'm here to discuss any questions you might have. The budget pretty much is the same from last year to this year, with the exception of the two accounts that changed from year to year, which is the office equipment upkeep and the software maintenance. Those are the two line items that support our infrastructure, the annual maintenance for all of our products that we support.
The software maintenance is, that's all contractual or not?
Yes,
All
that's all contractual, and it supports not only the core products like the financials and whatnot, but it also supports some of the departmental products, like the assessor's vision appraisal system. So their annual maintenance is in my budget.
Mhm.
Let's see what else. The product that the nurses use called SNAP, that's in my budget. So there's various products. I've got a laundry list of products that we support, not only for the network itself and the core systems, but again, for departmental. And I can go over those if you'd like in detail.
So in essence, other budgets shouldn't carry too much of a software maintenance account, really.
You mean
Except
other
for education,
other
yeah.
departments?
Right.
For the most part, they don't.
They
That is
don't,
correct, yeah. There are a couple of exceptions. I think the city clerk might be an exception. I think they cover their own maintenance costs for the COT system that they use for the indexing. But there are very, very few exceptions. The bulk of it is in my
Board of Education has their own.
Those are their own,
It's
completely
just-
separate,
okay.
yeah.
That was the area.
Yep, those are two.
That's
every
the
year.
two.
Yep.
The two coordinators,
The PC land coordinators, yes,
you asked to give them 67 apiece,
yes.
they're now at 62.
Which is what their budget is for this current year, because they're still in contract negotiations. So they're under, yeah, so their salary has not changed. So that's reflective of the upgrade that I had requested.
Is the upgrade that if when negotiations are over would take place? Or
No, from the way I understand, I requested the upgrade, and it was, based on this, it was denied.
Okay,
So it's not, that part is not dependent on the
okay.
contract negotiations. What their current salary that you see there is based on the salary that they have today because
Right,
of the.
right, yeah, I can see, yeah, that today the salary is 62. The mayor recommends 62, you asked for 67, so
Correct.
you asked for 67.
There's a request to reclassify their job as a different grade.
Okay,
But the present year, we didn't move on that.
okay, so we didn't move on that, but the negotiations are not gonna have an effect on
No, I mean,
Okay.
I don't know financially how, I mean, obviously, none of the contracts have been approved, so we don't know what the increase will be.
that. Okay,
And I don't know how that gets reflected in the budget, because none of that's been decided.
okay, but this increase has nothing to do with
Nothing to do with that, no, that
So
was
we're not
my
gonna-
request,
okay.
not at all.
Okay, and the computer hardware you wanted to buy, what was that?
Oh, that was the seed money that we were looking to do for the virtualization, the VMware virtualization. We've attempted to do that in the past. We're hoping to get that done again this year. So we're going to find an alternate, hopefully find an alternate means of funding that. But that's the seed money that we're looking for the virtualization, VMware, server virtualization, and application virtualization.
Mayor, could that ever come under a bonding issue? If we wanted to do it a one total upgrade?
It could. Usually when we bond, usually it's for capital projects that last 10 or 20 years, and a lot of times technology
Yeah, that's
upgrades
right.
don't have that shelf life. So we're less likely, but we have in the past had technology upgrades that we have bonded for, so it's possible, but it won't be this year.
Okay.
We may try to
It
find.
is possible.
Given the
That's
amount
right.
too, we would likely try to find it through another funding mechanism.
Okay, yeah, very good.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Budget 4116, Milford Government Access TV, page 16. Anything you'd like to say? You're
Sure.
welcome to.
My name is Alan May. I'm the chair of MCAT. I live at 56 Rogers Avenue, Unit Q, here in Milford. In terms of the proposed budget for the next fiscal year, it's essentially the same as it was for this year. The only real difference is an increase in the secretarial fees account. And we requested that because basically we didn't have much money in there to pay for a recording secretary to cover our monthly meetings. So we asked the mayor if he would increase that budget, and he did, and we're happy about that. The rest of it is pretty much the same as it's been for this year, literally actually for the past couple of years, same budget. So there hasn't been any change.
Thank you. If there's any questions?
This is strictly a, is this a board
It's a committee.
committee? Strictly Milford committee on this?
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Mayor, refresh my recollection with the request made by the zoning board of appeals for the coverage of their meetings, that
We passed along that request. They wanted to have, I believe, all of their meetings covered on MCAT. I know that some of their meetings are at this point, and
It's a month-by-month decision, basically. You know, we look at what we have to cover in a particular month, what the expenses are likely to be, and we tell the board, yes, we will be able to cover you this month or not. So far, we've been able to cover them every month, but we can't give them just a flat guarantee for the year.
okay. Approximately, what's the typical cost for meeting coverage?
It depends on the length of the meeting
Right.
primarily. I would say coverage of just the meeting itself usually runs around $200 to $300. But then there's additional costs in terms of the setup beforehand and afterwards, the basically editing the tape, make sure there's no glitches in it, no sound problems, that sort of thing, production of DVDs.
And assuming Attorney Knopf's not presenting one of his long applications.
I was thinking the same thing.
Any other questions?
None. I'm in good shape.
Thank
Okay,
you. Thanks
thank
for
you.
coming out.
Thank you. Oh, this is going to be a long meeting, I guess.
Mayor's office,
You got a lot
4121,
of questions?
page 17.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It is a relatively status quo budget. There are not too many adjustments over the previous year. I think there's essentially none other than the step increase or the adjustment for the wages based on contracts. Other than that, there are no changes. I'm happy to answer any questions.
You gave yourself what you requested.
Well, if there's no questions, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
General expenses, 4122, that is page 19.
Peter and I will handle this account. The only adjustment that I think is significant is under professional fees and services. Back several years ago, that line item paid for a grants coordinator. And maybe about 6 or 7 years ago, that position was not defunded, but I think the grants coordinator left. We continued to fund the position, but we never rehired a grants coordinator, so we left $1 in that account. We do not, at this point, need a grants coordinator that writes the grants. However, we do desperately need a grants administrator. Over the last several years, we have received tens of millions of dollars in grants that we have to do significant paperwork in order to be in compliance with the terms and conditions of the grants. There is a rule of thumb within the grants world that for every $500,000 of grant money that you receive, you should have someone administering that grant, a full-time position. We do not have that ability, so we have spread a lot of the grant responsibilities to the individual departments. And that's how it's going to continue to be. However, we do need, for some of these grants, specifically the storm resiliency grants, someone to help with the administration of it. So we are hiring a temporary seasonal person to get us through some of these storm resiliency funds. You've seen some of the money that has come through the city from the HUD, Community Development Block Grants. We've received about $10 million worth of grant money through FEMA, through various state and federal agencies, where we're receiving a lot of money essentially because they are incentivizing shoreline towns, coastal communities to rebuild their shoreline infrastructure, and we're taking advantage of that, trying to make our beaches have a greater distance between Long Island Sound and our neighborhoods, trying to make sure that our revetments and our jetties are stronger and harder than ever before. So we have a lot of grant money coming into Milford, and we do need, at least for the time being, someone to help us with the administration of it. And so that's where the $20,000 increase comes from.
What's the experience of the person involved in this?
We have assembled our HR department has assembled a job description. We have not put it out yet. We will likely put it out within the next week. And at that point, go through the search committee process and hire someone, based on some experience with grants, some experience in accounting. So it will be someone who has had some prior grant experience.
And now, like Joe Griffin, his department should be doing some of this as well, no? Because he's involved with the resiliency and, no?
He's our floodplain manager.
Right.
And he's involved with a couple of the planning grants, but Public Works does more of the infrastructure grants. The community development deals with all of the grants for elevations and acquisitions that individual property owners apply through the city, because the city is the grantee and the homeowner is a sub-grantee. So there's a lot of administration that individual departments do. Public Works, Community Development are probably the two largest shoreline resiliency grant departments.
Okay.
And obviously a lot of the paperwork falls on the finance office. Probably the majority of the paperwork falls on the finance office to help administer. So Peter will probably be the person that selects this grant coordinator.
Okay, thank you. There's nothing
Thank you,
further?
Mr. Mayor.
There's nothing further, 4121 Golf Course Fund 18, page 112. Welcome. Good evening.
It's cold and windy night.
Give us something to look forward to.
To know, but that's why.
Yeah, snow time.
Or the yellow balls.
Dick Austin couldn't make it tonight, so he
Uh,
asked him to show up. He and War for said Swanson, correct. Our budget's basically the same as last year's budget. Golf course is doing pretty well. If any of you have been by there, you've noticed some major renovations to it. As far as the new maintenance shed, which allowed us to take the maintenance equipment out of the clubhouse and give us additional space in the clubhouse for additional things to go on. We did very well this year. The rounds were up, and a lot of compliments about the condition, of course.
Great.
Now, the clubhouse, what are you gonna be doing with that now that you have room in that?
We're basically, right now, we're cleaning it up, number one, because there was maintenance equipment in there. And then after that, we'll decide what we're gonna do. Whether it's gonna be a spot for people to meet while they're having a golf tournament there, or whether or not there can be some type of activity in there which can bring a revenue. But it does need to be cleaned up, and it also gives us additional space in the maintenance room to purchase 2 additional cars.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Okay. For the record, I'm on the board of Milford Progress, so I'll be recusing myself as vice chairman. Mr. Patrick, take over.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is John Nuff. I'm the president of Milford Progress, Inc., newly installed as of January. I have an office address of 147 Broad Street here in Milford. The mayor's recommendations for $10,000, and we'd obviously be very grateful to receive that. I'll be candid. I'm not sure where the $25,000 request came from, but as I said, we'd be very grateful for the $10,000. We have no operating expenses of any kind. We are entirely volunteer. We pay no staffing charges. In fact, as of today, my assistant in my law office is going to be taking the minutes and doing all the sort of secretarial work associated with MPI. And everything we do, every dime we spend goes for infrastructure improvements to the city. In fact, now that Chris Saley is the Public Works Director, oftentimes the money is just paid back to the city because Public Works is doing a lot of the projects that we're pursuing. So,
Most of the funds, where do you get most of your funds to do these from donations? Or from
our funds come exclusively from the city.
the city?
Yep. We'd be happy to accept donations. We never had that idea.
Now, who do you work with on these things? Just you yourselves?
No. There's a group of about 18 people.
That's what I thought.
So Chris Saley has actually agreed to be part of our, and he's not technically a member of MPI, but he's now attending our meetings. But, a lot of dedicated people who live and work here in Milford, and Ray Macaluso, who you probably know, is now back on the board, which is terrific because he's got a tremendous amount of knowledge. There's a few gentlemen who were on the board for many, many years and contribute great service, like Jim Beard and Sam Bergamy. They both left the board as of this past year, but they gave literally decades of service, so folks like that.
Yeah, great. That's good. I'm all set.
Most of it.
Thank you very much,
Thank
John.
you. Pleasure. Have a good night.
And take care.
Next item, 4320, Fire Department, page 51. Welcome, Chief Vito, how are you?
Evening, thank you.
How are you? Well, you're welcome to make any statements that you'd like.
Well,
Or would you?
staying with the game plan, I'll just tell you that my boss said to keep the budget at 0, and we did. Essentially, it is exactly the same. let's see, maybe one account where we flip-flop some money, but the bottom line is a whole bunch of same. In fact, I think it's less than 0.5%, 0.04. If that. And the other ones that we have to address are the lighting and the hydrants and civil repairs are also flat. Same from last year.
Are you seeing any cost savings as a result of the consolidation of the fire stations at this point? I think
I'd have to say no at this point. I know we got rid of 2 older buildings to open a new one, but it seems like the electric and the heat were issues that we're still addressing. But I would say a wash if nothing else. Not anymore, but not any less. And in fact, in the CD budget, you'll see there's an increase. And in fact, this budget, you'll see an increase in the water charges, and that's because we now took ownership of Siemens Land.
Okay, so you have ownership of Siemens Land at this point?
Yes, so we've got those utility bills.
And that's basically used for excess equipment storage, or is it used
Right now, at this
In
point.
some training.
for training?
It's, training facility. We installed a hydrant, and we have some props there. We store a lot of
Is that
spare.
fire, is basically for emergency response, fire department, or?
When the BRAC Commission, the Base Realignment Commission, came to the city, there were a couple different ways that the city could repurpose it, that the BRAC Commission would turn over the property for free. They could have sold it to us at fair market value and we could have used it for anything, but there were only certain things that we could have repurposed it and had it transferred to the city for free. One of those things was emergency management. So we had identified emergency management, and when we took receipt of the property, we cannot use it at this point for anything but emergency management in perpetuity. That's part of the agreement with the Army, that it has to stay as a
It's a good
facility that
location
does
for
that.
that type of activity.
And moving forward, we want to even tap into regional, so that like a pod, a point of distribution, if there was a major event, everything would come right there. The tractor trailers could come in, be loaded inside, and residents could come through, and toss around something like that for emergency preparedness.
What if we decide to just give it up? Yes, go back to the government?
It would return to the U.S. Army.
Army, okay. I have one question on the holiday. Is that a contractual item going up 90,000?
Yes, it is, and typically with that was a little bit low. It's hard to anticipate the.
Budget's the same. Yeah, the budget's the same, but
If you look at the
you're anticipating.
expense last year.
Right.
How'd it come in so much lower? I mean, why is it coming in so much lower?
Yeah, that's a, yeah. Projected coming in at 430, that's what I was looking at. Is that a correct figure, maybe?
For projections?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you look at the projection,
4114.
That might be a conservative projection originally from the department. Historically, it's been more than that.
Yeah, that has to be a typo or something.
Okay.
Typically, and Peter's right, typically we have an issue with that because we're not sure what the pay raises are going to be. So we can't account for 13 holidays that everybody gets them.
How do you project your overtime costs? How do you determine that?
For the vacation and relief aspect of overtime, that is based on, let's say, the 100 firefighters and they have 20 vacation days.
That I understand.
When you're taking a vacation, we have to cover that.
Right.
The other overtimes?
Yeah, the 4112, 000.
Regular overtime, that's
Right.
anything additional to those days that those people are off. If there's training, if there's storms, and we have to hire back additional people.
My idea is, you know, when you're making a budget, what basis do you come up with this figure, you know?
That's just, for me, it's just been historical values that I've been running in the last couple of years.
In the chief's request, in addition to, he looked at the historical, and then he also took into account the wage increases based on the terms of the contract. And I did, you'll see in several of the different departmental budgets, we did reduce it beyond that even a little bit more.
That was, it's a curiosity item for me, how you can come up to the, how many positions are open right now? Do you have, everybody's filled, every position
We're
filled?
down 3 right now.
Three?
3.
All firemen or,
One's in office and one's in
so 2 officers?
the no.
Oh, well,
actually not.
obviously, yeah.
Well, no, I can tell you, no, there is 1 lieutenant, 2 fire inspectors, so it's 3 lieutenant pay, right?
Mhm. Will they be filled within the year?
Yeah, actually, we just ran a test for lieutenant. Next Monday is fire inspector's exam, and in the springtime, we're hoping to run an entry level to fill those positions.
Okay.
I have a question. The vacation and leave portion, that's when you have to bring people back when other people are on vacation
Yes, I have to fill the spots.
to fill the spot to come up to the minimum manpower.
Correct.
Okay, so the other overtime is just counted when the training and it just various.
Yeah, you see how they're broken down, there's overtime EMS.
Right.
That'll be our second medic units in service.
Right.
Overtime special operations, beat dive teams, at the high angle. And in fact, I have your police chief and I have been working with special medics, SWAT medics, to work with the SWAT team. They would be paid on an overtime basis if they get called out.
Right.
And that special. Mutual aid is, in fact, this year, a couple months ago, we went to Bridgeport. Bridgeport Fire asked us to go respond to the fire and cover some of their stations when they had a major fire.
No, I'm looking at the 400, the regular overtime. Where does that come from? Because if I add that and the vacation and relief, it's come up with $1 million in overtime.
It's also if a firefighter is sick or is out or some type
Right.
of disability.
Right, but I thought that was vacation and relief.
I think the vacation.
Not if it's a vacation, no. If it's
Vacation
a
or-
sick or injury, it's different.
Relief, if sick or injury,
The
then it's
vacation is
regular.
just their vacation time that they're
And
allowed
relief?
off.
It's relief.
No, vacation relief. It's technically should be the one word.
One word?
Yeah, vacation relief.
All right, so that's just vacation. And then the overtime is just overtime for other reasons, sick, whatever. Okay. Okay, so the other overtime is when people are sick, people are out for any reason, you have to bring somebody back. And the increase in wages, that is what contractual?
Yes, we don't do the reviews or the fiscal. Peter does that. It would be anticipated. Wage increase.
if someone else wants to go back to fire department, we can, while the chief's still here, but we'll move on to civil preparedness, 4231, page 58. And my question on that, I think I know the answer to, is that there was an increase in fuel and electricity. Is that because of the Siemens Lane property?
Yes. And that's the only reason. Which one?
The
Siemens Lane?
Yeah, Siemens Lane.
What is that? When do we take that over?
We've had it for over a year, year and a half, but I think it's just about 8 or 9 months on it that it actually was turned over to us.
Oh,
The Army had allowed us to use it. We had to have an agreement with them. They were still paying the electricity and the utilities, but they allowed us to use it for 3 or 4 years, I think. And then ultimately they said, you have to take it over full and final and start paying the utilities, so.
It took quite a bit of time to get the deed
yeah.
changed over.
Surprised they went fast.
They did them all around.
Huh?
New Haven is one that they gave out. There's a Brantford, I think there's one. They got rid of them all.
Do we have to give any equipment back yet?
They were empty. There's nothing.
Do we have any of the military equipment with the SWAT teams are using, or they're asking back for?
I don't think we've taken any.
Did you take anything?
Know that they've offered it to some of the towns, and we've looked at things like the high water vehicles.
Yeah, right.
Those 5-ton trucks, but the maintenance is pretty substantial on those, and we have not acquired any, but I know that both chiefs have looked at them in the past.
Yeah,
Especially for a short.
they were very upset. The government was upset they used them in Fergus. Down the street in that big tank.
I remember one in 1978 when they had a big blizzard.
Yeah.
They had the houses on fire in Point Beach, and they brought them on.
I was over 2 feet.
Yeah, really?
2 feet, yeah.
Big 6x6.
Yeah.
Okay, CMed 4805, page 88. Now this is the part, this is what's being phased out in New Haven, is that?
And it was, if you see there, Mr. Chairman, that you could see the significant difference
Right.
from past. And in fact, we're hoping to even bring that 71 down next year, a little bit. But yeah, we're out of New Haven and we're in Bridgeport.
Are we staying in Bridgeport?
Yes.
Lighting, hydrant, water, page 62.
Back. And, that one I laughed at that. That's where we pay the bills.
Uh-huh.
And actually, the meter assist does the adjustments and the percentages of what we think is gonna be increases. There's always a little bit. But that's just to pay the charges and pay bills.
Is that the water company in the Y?
Water company,
Condos handle the long properties.
some are private, developers and
Yeah.
we're private, some of the businesses.
In the past, we have a maintenance contract with RWA.
Right.
And in the past, our maintenance contract covered all hydrants. Periodically, we have to inspect the hydrants and put grease on the taps. She does a better explanation as to what the maintenance contract entails, but we did, for a lot of the different condo associations, cover their private hydrants too in terms of the maintenance, which isn't the case in all municipalities.
All right.
Vito, thank you.
Okay.
That's good, yeah. Thank you.
Good night. Okay. 4310. Police Department. Lee, welcome. Hello, how are you? Well, you know the drill by now.
Yeah, I do actually. So I'm not really going to go into any detail on a statement, just to say that there's no new programs in this budget. You can probably see that, and there really hasn't been quite some time other than the SROs. I do want to point out that a lot of our funding for any special projects, special equipment, special training, usually would come out of federal seized assets. That program has been halted by the federal government. We stand to lose about $100,000 that we had anticipated, because we know how much money we're due, because it takes time for that stuff to work through the system. And that's been put on hold. We're told for at least 2 years before they reevaluate it. And that's going to be a significant loss for us over the next year and the next 2 years. When and if they're reinstated, we don't know if we'll get the money back that we had in the pipe. But that's going to have a significant impact on us.
Which fund is this? I'm
The
sorry.
federal seized asset funds, those are funds that, drug seizure funds.
Right.
We work with both the FBI and the DEA, and we have folks that work closely with them and their task forces. And so we share in those proceeds.
Oh, all right.
From proceeds that are either based on facilitation of a crime or proceeds of a crime. And that money, a percentage of that money comes back to the municipal police departments. And it's not just Milford, municipal agencies rely heavily on that money, as we do all alternative funding sources, whether it be grants or donations or what have you. And the only other thing I just want to point out, right now, as of mid-January, we have $0 for overtime. In the regular overtime account, we have $0 for training overtime. But that's not us. We are a month ahead of where we were last year. Normally we run out of money in February. But that's not surprising to us because our projections have been pretty accurate. We have some known costs, and we've been pretty accurate in our projections based on historical data and some of the part of what I just said.
The seized asset, you wouldn't see it in this budget because on Fund 76, this is only Fund 10, the operating.
There are specific areas, categories where that money can be used.
Right. Now, that's at Fund 76. What area would that affect you?
Will it affect us in additional training programs? I'll give you a for instance.
Yeah.
To buy the resources that we had at Simon Lake, that was federal seized assets. To buy the motorcycles that you see, that's federal seized assets. To buy one of the boats we had in the past was federal seized assets. Some of the special training programs that we bring in, those are federal seized assets. And then investigations that we fund, our computer crimes unit, some of those things that are additional. Because what you see here is maintenance of the police department, just to maintain
daily
operations, right? So we've always tried to fund our programs through other funding sources. In the past, there was a lot of grant money available, and there's still some grant money available, and that's what we look at. And we also take donations that help us fund things like DARE, help us buy police dogs, things like that you don't see in this budget.
Now, like undercover stuff and all that, would that be in this budget
No.
or would that go 76?
That goes
Possibly.
mostly federal seized assets for that.
Okay.
You do see in special services a $2,000, I think maybe there's $2,000, and that is undercover money that is used for special undercover operations.
At the present time, Peter, how much of your money do we have there?
Which account, sir?
76? How much in the police 76?
Which specific account, seized assets? or-
Yeah, seems as it. Can you look that up?
About 100?
No, I don't think so, Peter.
Okay.
Never mind. I didn't think- Sorry. I keep forgetting that thing that's over in the corner. We take that thing out of, oh, I know how I can do that. There we go. Sorry about that. Okay, what else do we have?
Software and maintenance, so are we getting new software?
We maintain all of our software and all of our maintenance. We have 23 servers, we have 80 computers, we have 33 laptops. You've seen our computer center, and we get some support from MIS, but we have police officers in there doing that work. The software that you see is just the upgrade to our operating systems on our laptops and any upgrades on the servers.
Okay, so that account 4796, those are software upgrades, updates?
Oh, I'm sorry, that's all our maintenance accounts. Again, we pay for all of our own maintenance. And those accounts are our MIS, our CAD system, our computer dispatch, our records management system, our jail system, our collect systems, our excuse me, there's a few more systems, and I'm sorry, our records management system. All those are all maintained under contract, and those are maintenance agreements for all those programs.
Yeah, I noticed it went up by about 75,000.
That's because those are fixed costs, those are additional costs that were due. That cost has to do with the body-worn cameras. As you know, body-worn cameras have been something that have become very popular in the US. We had them for 3 years. We've had them before anyone was talking about body-worn cameras, but we had a program we thought worked for us. We had a program where we would share cameras, but now we're all being mandated to carry cameras. And now, and actually, I sat on the committee that wrote the policy where the storage costs have been tripled. And those storage costs now, we need unlimited storage packages because we have to hold all this data, all this video evidence and video data. And so now that's going to cost our department our size about $134,000 a year. You're seeing a little less than half, but you're seeing a little bit more than half of that because we assume that the state grant, which is a reimbursement grant, we assume the state grant is going to cover the first year for costs for hardware and software, but we don't know. We don't know how much it's actually going to cost. So what we put in is anticipating that the second half of the year, we're going to have to pay for it ourselves. Next budget, you're going to see approximately $134,000, $135,000 to pay for those costs. We don't have a choice because it's a mandate.
Is it every year?
It'll be every year. And what you don't see in this budget, and we haven't asked for, is somebody has to manage all that data, and somebody has to manage the release of all that data. I'll give you just a quick for instance. If you want to know what Keith Mello's doing, and you say, I want to see all Keith Mello's videos, or I want to see all use of force videos for the Milford PD, somebody has to find those in the catalog, has to queue those up, has to put them in the viewer and look at those in real time, and then redact whatever material we can redact based on our FOI, our Freedom of Information laws, and then burn a copy of that, and then release that. So you're talking an enormous amount of hours, an enormous amount of manpower. Departments are saying, I know departments I'm talking to our size are talking about hiring 2 additional people just to do that. We have 1 person that does all of our FOI part-time. So I don't know if we're going to ask for more people in the future. I think we'll take a wait-and-see approach on what kind of requests that we see. We anticipate that we will see some, how much we just don't know. But that's what that cost is. But those are all fixed costs in that maintenance account.
Okay. Who can request that information?
You can, anyone can. Anyone can walk the street and ask for it. And you don't even have to.
I'd like to ask you a question, but I can't.
Anyone can. But some of that material, I mean, if we go into your home with the camera, there's some things that you may not want released. Well, some of that is going to be released because you have to read your FOI laws and to see what's releasable and what's not. But some of it can't, especially when we're dealing with kids and sexual assault victims and some of those things. But people should need to pay really close attention to those FOIA laws to see where your privacy is going in terms of the release of that video, those videos.
Okay. One of the maintenance accounts for next year that you're going to anticipate an increase in is going to be the communications maintenance because it's about 5 years old, our communication system, and we had a 5-year contract as part of that, but after that five-year contract sunsets, we're gonna have to pay the annual maintenance costs. So I don't know what
It's
that,
about $120,000. But if you remember, when we did that, we absorbed fires.
Right.
We absorbed their CAD system, so we're paying for software for them as well as for us, and we absorbed their radio costs, because we have one system now. It's saving millions of dollars. I mean, as we've talked about those that were on the board earlier. But there is going to be significant maintenance costs, because it's a pretty sophisticated system.
Why do we not assign the fire department a certain
Well,
portion of that?
you know, it's all one,
Yeah.
it comes from the same
We
pool.
got a
It's
number of
up to the mayor how we want to do
Well,
that.
that's true, you can't split that.
I mean, they have to maintain their radio, so they'll still have a piece in there, but
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, where is that in the budget? Because I was actually looking for that earlier.
the radio costs?
Yeah, the radio. Well,
That's-
the dispatch, I see the dispatches, but the whole system, the whole dispatch maintenance system?
We absorb that just into our MIS systems.
Into your MIS?
Right, so
Okay,
we had a SunGuard CAD RMS system,
right,
and we took that and shared that with the fire department. So we bought additional licenses, we
Right.
bought the fire piece, but we just meld that all into our own one system. So that SunGuard software cost, that's the core of the system right there,
Okay.
police and fire. And there's some auxiliary systems too, that you'll see in there, where there's other maintenance costs.
that's the software maintenance primarily?
Yes.
Okay.
And if you, there's a breakdown on that, you know, you have to go over that for you if you'd like. But there's a breakdown as to actually where all those costs come from. And again, there's a number of auxiliary systems that are built in there. I will tell you that we, and the mayor and I have talked about this, we don't, the telestaff system, which is the system I was looking at before, our scheduling system software is in there as well. Even that dollar figure you're looking at does not cover the maintenance costs for all these systems. So what we do is we look at some of the older systems and we go on a pay-by-event process. We've had times where we haven't been able to fix the equipment because the cost was too great, but we do a pretty good job, I think, of anticipating where we need the insurance policy of a maintenance cost and where we can do it that way.
So all dispatches are the police department.
All the dispatchers, we're calling all public safety dispatchers now, and we're in the process of cross-training everyone. And we think we'll see some efficiencies there when we start to have them do the same job, and that was really part of the goal.
Right.
So
Right.
the economies of scale, I mean, in the long term, we're gonna save quite a bit of money in this whole process, and we have a better system because we're not transferring calls. And the operational side has proven to be very valuable.
Good.
It wouldn't be a budget season without a question about cruisers, so.
Yeah, right.
Well, cruisers now, if you recall, we had the Crown Vics, and
Right.
we were spending about $22,000. Now we're spending about $29,000 per car, because those are the cars we have available, and they all require different equipment. Now, we went from a time we were buying 12 and 13 cruisers a year, and now we have 7 additional officers. And we put more cars out there, because one of the things we did was we took, 11 years ago, we took police officers out of admin jobs and put them on the road. So we have more than just the 7 on the road. So, and we've gone down in cruisers. So I think we're at our bare minimum when it comes to cruisers. And when you think about cruisers, you also have to realize that there's a cost involved in the changeover, because we recycle those cruisers. And we put them into the detective bureau and eventually we trade them in. There's $1,000 just to repaint them. There's $2,200 in cost just to change the labor costs, just to change the equipment over and do the graphics. So the cars are costing about $12,000 more than what you're looking at. This year we've had some relief because when we did the new body style, we had to buy all new equipment, and now we have all that equipment in here. So now it's just a maintenance schedule of every year buying a certain number of light bars and radio systems and computer mounts and all the stuff that goes in there, the gun racks, all that. We recycle those, but we realized at the time we have to replace them. So we actually asked for 5 a year. And so we put them on a 5-year, actually a 6-year replacement cycle. which is kind of stressing it to the outside, but that's what we've been doing quite well.
What's an average cruiser, do you think, put on mileage?
Well, there's a first line
Oh,
limit.
that's right.
Right, so we know that because they're hard miles, they're constantly on, there's a lot of heavy stop and go. So when you look at a cruiser, let's say it's 50,000 miles, it looks like it has 2,000 miles. And, you know, the recommendation is that you take them off front line at 50,000. But we usually keep them for about 100. They're in pretty bad shape when we get rid of them. And that's why we don't get a lot for them.
Right, okay.
But we put them first line, second line, and then they go over to the detective bureau.
So on the average, we're replacing 6 cars a year?
No, we're hoping to get 8 cars out of that.
6 years, 6 years, right?
6 years,
Most everything that we have in there is a replacement cycle. All of our equipment, including computers, they run normal replacement cycles.
Now, every officer's gonna have a camera?
Yes,
Everyone. Is that mandatory? By who?
by a state statute.
It is state, okay. Was there talk about reviewing that?
The statute?
Yeah.
Well, the statute was up for review, and Connecticut was one of the first states to do that. I sit on the board of directors for the Chiefs of Police Association, and we weighed heavily on that. And municipalities all had an opportunity to weigh in on that as well. I'm not sure everybody really, I know Mayor Blake and I, we talked about it quite a bit. I don't know how in between everyone was with how much it was actually going to cost, because now we're starting to hear a lot about how we pay for this.
Yeah.
But it's a program we believe in. It's benefited us.
Okay, that's the question.
Yeah, and we believe strongly in it. There's a lot of video out there, and we get a lot of edited video of the ugly parts. And we want to know what happened from start to finish.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a good program. Does every officer need a camera? We weren't necessarily in favor of that.
That's what I'm.
We like to, but the concern was, not to get into a long discussion on that,
Yeah,
but the concern was that are we just going to give them to select officers? And so there's a lot that went into those decisions.
Yeah.
But you can talk to your legislator or legislative delegation if you think we should change that, because we certainly believe there should be some changes to the statute.
Okay, that's my feeling too, okay. Okay,
You should know.
take care. Good seeing you.
I'm sorry? Sure. I'm sorry.
Are you in your office?
No, I won't tomorrow. But I can still call you, or you can call me.
I just need to know how to get it when I
Oh, just give me a call.
Thanks,
I
sorry.
can get my cell phone from anyone in the office.
Sure. Okay,
All right?
sorry.
Okay, it's a good question.
She got an internship, she needs clearance
Oh, that's
for 3
great.
states.
We can do Connecticut. Wait, give me a call.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody.
You don't have to go in there, do you?
Listen, I got beat up because I was late for that last meeting. It caused a lot of problems. I'm telling you, you have no idea. You should have gone on the meetings that the next time. They weren't happy all. And I've never been late. It was just not a good day. But I told everybody, they said, they're not going to give you $4 million without discussing it, so.
Oh, God.
Okay,
That's,
Okay.
welcome. For the record, 4420 Public Works. That is page 63. Then we'll run through the several departments, as everyone knows, Saley is here for us, so we will move along relatively quickly, but if anyone has a question, wants to jump in, by all means, please do so, and we will go back. Public Works, 4420, page 63. Highway Parks, 4421, page 65.
question on this, Chris. All position filled?
No, no, as you can see, as you'll see, right now, our regular wages are running on the low side, but our overtime is running a little higher. Because we filled in some spots. We've had a decent amount of transition for some people retiring, and then us, Tanya Barnes, Human Resources Director, updating job descriptions and things. And it does take time to fill positions, just because of the process.
A lot of the job descriptions that we have not really been updated since the 1970s.
Okay.
And so it's a process to update a job description because you have to go through the Civil Service Commission. Also, the union weighs in terms of, approving various changes or adjustments. And then you have to put it out to testing and the process for selecting a new employee.
Gets internally posted for a number of days.
Oh, yeah.
Then we have to wait for that, no one comes in. And it gets advertised, it takes a long time.
Yeah. So how many people are we not filled right now?
Right now, we're down about 10 employees, through all of the departments.
But just these highway projects?
I believe it is, we're in the process. We hired 2 people in the last 2 weeks. We're hiring another one, I believe, on Tuesday. So I think we'll be down to 2 positions. So
10 is for your entire area.
yes.
There's approximately 150.
Right. There's several departments, right?
Will be maintenance 4423, page 69.
Chris, under 4444, the heating fuel, have we seen any benefits on this oil button or anything? This is all contract, I understand.
Yes.
Are we gonna find in anything?
Believe it or not, right now, we have a 1-year contract that we go out to bid. So our contract for diesel is $2.71 a gallon. It's substantially higher than you can probably buy in the market. And right now, our gas price is $2.41 a gallon. That's because you got to understand, when we did it a year ago, we signed for a contract. Contracts swing both ways. Now, who would ever anticipate oil being down at $30 a barrel? No one. When we got those numbers, we were very excited.
Right.
And
I remember that.
I mean, they were substantially less. It was almost 30 cents a gallon less than the year before. So we thought, hey, this is great. But like everything, so we're locked in, but we anticipate having, when it goes out to bid, that number will come down.
When's the bids go out?
August, generally. Peter would know, our purchasing agent doesn't.
Yeah.
I believe all of the energy contracts go out to bid in August, or the bids are due by August.
Not 100% sure, but yes, he
In
does
August?
those every year.
And we have to use a certain amount, so once we hit that number, then the new bid would take effect. But I thought it would kick in March, but I could be wrong.
Wow, so we were gonna spend $60,000 more this in 16, 17. And go from like 330 to 390, and we may knock it back to 375. Wow. So the new are you gonna use more, or?
Well, the reason I asked, just to give you an example, we took over the Simon Lake building, which originally the anticipation was that was going to be a building that was going to be almost mothballed. Between the Boys and Girls Club, between the police department and other uses, it hasn't happened. And we've seen our energy use in that building alone is substantially higher. And that was really the big addition to that number.
And who took, the education department took care of it before?
Yeah, they still pay a small percentage, but it's been a tremendous increase that we didn't anticipate in the original
And
budget.
their percentage that they pay is actually reimbursed to the general fund at the end of the year. So they contribute about 25%.
Yeah.
But you'll see that in the revenue side of the budget the following year.
Okay, so what's driving the increase is quantity, not the price is going down, but there's more quantity behind. Okay.
There's definitely a lot of use throughout the city, and a lot of the buildings for that matter. And then the other big building we have, which is the Egan Center, we're going to try to do some energy updates. Believe it or not, it's an old steam boiler. Okay. You don't even want to see this boiler. It's old. And
that school is built along.
yeah, and there's a lot of use down there. So there's even like here, you're in this room, the windows in this building are substandard. You can hear the wind blowing, the amount of energy we lost. We spent a lot of money in this building, and we've seen a 22% reduction in energy on it. Now, we won't see a true savings for 3 years because that's the contract we signed on to. We got a 0% loan, but it will offset, and after 3 years, then we'll see the savings.
Heating fuel, now, what are we paying for the diesel?
$2.71 a gallon.
And gas will pay $2.41?
$2.41. So, the pricing you see out on the street pricing is with taxes, so that shows how much more we're paying with it.
There's no way anticipating any of this.
Well, that's the tough thing with budgets, you just never know.
Yeah. You're gonna have a lot of money left over at the end of this fiscal year.
Like you did last fiscal, remember that the last?
Where do you see that? What account? I'm trying to see.
Right in that account, that heating fuel account, by the end of the fiscal year comes, we're gonna be paying maybe diesel, probably $1.30.
Well, I just want to tell you, like an insurance policy, our energy reserve fund is almost on zero. We used a lot of it in the last year and a half for different accounts.
Yeah, we did see that.
So it would be a good idea to fund it a little bit. That would be
We
my
won't
opinion,
have to
but
have capital outlay, we can use the reserve fund.
whatever you would like.
Sorry, Chris, no problem. All right.
Engineering, 4424, page 72.
That's the new engineer, right?
Yeah. Our new engineer started a number of months ago.
Yeah.
He's really done a tremendous job.
Yeah.
Doing a lot of in-house design stuff where you'll see us, hopefully if we have some money left over in that account for the end of the year, we're gonna come in to ask for some software so we can do more in-house design work on some other hardware items that we want to get.
The younger guy, not the age matters, but like the younger people have more knowledge of the computer systems of today compared to yesterday.
I don't know how to answer that exactly,
Yeah,
except to say that he does a great job.
Okay, good job.
General garage, our favorite department, 4429.
Yes. There you go. Just to give you a little add-on, we've spent year-to-date about $85,000 just in parts for sanitation. So if you translate that to the year, we'll be about 160 grand, 165,000. So remember that was what we did a balance transfer last year.
It's gonna be involved with these new sanitation trucks and everything, is gonna be involved with this?
The money that you allowed us to bond, we're anticipating, we hope, that we're gonna see, and actually I brought a little paperwork for you so you'd understand it. An example, the trucks that we have that we're going out to bid, we have a 1993, a 1996, a 1997, 1999. And they have anywhere, you shouldn't go over more than 17,000 hours. But these trucks, some of them have as much as 22,000 hours on. So that's where the use comes in, these trucks, tremendous use.
So equipment supply and upkeep is what you were talking about going up?
Yes, yep, 4335.
Okay.
Do we use chains?
What's that?
Do you use chains on trucks still?
Yes. Depending on the weather.
Yeah, right.
Like all the new trash trucks will be getting chains.
The only other thing that isn't reflected in this budget that we did discuss heavily when we had the December hearings was under the foreman's position on solid waste. I guess we're still on garage still.
Yeah, we didn't go to solid waste. Okay. Anything further on garage?
No.
Solid waste, 4431, Mr. Mayor.
There was a request from the Public Works Director. Right now, the foreman's position, there's an acting person in it. Before that position was interviewed and hired for a full-time person, we were there was a request to change that job description. And again, it would have to go through the process that we just described through civil service. But to make that a position that was both a foreman position and an assistant public works director. Several years ago, we had, for example, for the highways parks department, we had a superintendent and then 2 foremen. So there's been several different administrative folks that have been lost over the last several years. And in terms of leadership for the department, we were looking for an additional support person for our public works director, just because there is a lot of supervisory needs given all that we do. And there was a request for that foreman position to be reclassified as a solid waste foreman slash deputy public works director.
We were looking at 2 different scenarios, as Amir said. It was a public assistant director or a superintendent of parks and highway, because that was the position that was removed. And the reason it wasn't put in the budget, in all fairness, was I was supposed to supply something to Peter, and I just didn't have the time. And so Peter didn't put it in, and he explained that to me. But it's, just to give you an example, and I won't tell you a local town, but there's a local town that has a director, an assistant director, and then a superintendent. So there's 3 positions doing what intensively, for all intents and purposes, I do. It really is. It's, I know everyone says in this area, this is an opportunity, I think, for the town. It's a vacant position right now. We have an acting person in it, so it would give us the opportunity to look at that in a different way. I did ask Amir to look at increasing the salary on that, because I think it's, again, on the lower side. And it would be, to get good people, and we'll get the solid, not solid waste, the sewer department. I'll explain that to you, what I thought, why I think it's important to pay people what they're worth.
What position is that?
The foreman.
Now, is this something we would potentially get a technical correction on during our technical session?
It would be something that you'd have to make an amendment on,
Right.
and the public works director, between now and when you deliberate full and final, he would have to provide you some additional materials, additional background information, so that you could make an informed decision.
Well, I would request that he do that, and then the board, when we discuss the budget during our deliberation, at least we'd have the information, and we can make a decision at that time.
Yeah.
Thank you, appreciate that.
And wastewater, 4426, page 101.
Can I go to solid waste for a second? This whole new thing coming in with the new trucks and everything else, that's nothing in here.
Nothing is there.
That won't come in, will come in during the coming year sometime, right?
Our goal, this is the bid proposal that we just went through with
Yeah.
the garage foreman and the solid waste foreman. We anticipate bringing this to Fred Bialka, our purchasing agent, on Tuesday or Wednesday of this coming week. So it'll take about a month to get that out, advertised, and we think we're gonna have some pretty aggressive bidders after talking with a number of vendors, both body, you gotta understand, there's 2 different components to it. There's a chassis, which is the truck itself, and then the body, which is the trash. So,
Now, I'm looking more from the personnel aspect of this whole thing. How's that going to affect us? The employees are going to still stay the same for this coming year?
Yes, we made a commitment that we would not be laying anyone off, but through attrition, we would be reducing the department. That's one of the things we're in the process of finalizing the contract. It was one of the things that I think the union and the town worked well together. I think we got some things that work for both parties.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Brian.
I was just thinking about the aspect of, we're going to keep the same payroll pretty much, you would say, for the next fiscal year.
I would, we might see a small reduction.
Okay.
I mean, right now, we're down 3 employees, to be honest, in that department. We just had an individual retire, so, and with the new truck, you might see people, I can't say for sure, but you might see people that have been doing it for a long time say, hey, it's time for us to move on.
Okay.
On a related vein, with the new trucks, I know you mentioned last meeting that you went and did some testing. Was there any testing done in this type of weather with the
It's interesting you say that, Brian. We've done it the last 3 weeks.
Right.
We didn't advertise, we didn't tell anyone. This was the worst case scenario, so we've had 2 storms that we've gone through. No one's even has known we've done it, but these trucks have done a tremendous job. An example, I was going up this hill because we're following them with my car. My car actually got stuck and the truck didn't, so I had to go down the hill to get out. But no, they've done, it's, when you see it, I mean, there's, the towns that have done it, East Lyme, Bristol, Connecticut, there's a reason why they've done it. It's very, very important. It really does. It streamlines the efficiency of what we're doing. It takes a lot of wear and tear off the employees. It takes longer, there's no doubt about it, and that was one of the things, you know, we have an incentive program with the city, so it's going to be adjusted. Yeah, there definitely is, you know, but on the flip side, you'll be sitting in an ear ride seat driving a truck with a joystick. It's really, I know people get excited about trash bagging, so it's something to see.
Yeah.
Do you anticipate only one employee per truck?
That would be our goal. We have some other ideas though to reassign, and that's part of the things that we've worked out with the union. But I mean, we need to do this. We spend a lot of money in trash. If you look at what we spend, it's a substantial amount more than what we probably should be, and that's one of the things the union was well aware of. That's why the union worked with us in regards to getting the contract that made sense for all parties.
Get back to wastewater?
Oh, I'm sorry. Like
Yeah,
that.
okay, 4426.
Is that Blue Cross insurance, what's it, medical insurance for employees?
Which number are you on?
4214-9916.
Page 101.
Yeah, page 101. Kind of middle of the page.
Yes, that's the contribution to the health insurance fund for insurance for employees.
Okay,
Yes.
Peter, do you know why it's going up so much?
Well, that's just a part of, it's part of the projected medical cost trend, just the increase in healthcare costs.
But that's projected.
That's projected.
That's not definite.
No, it's not definite.
Now, do they, employees like in the wastewater, because of their hazardous type duties or anything, that's not involved in this stuff at all, is it? They're like, they're more subject to possibly injuries on the job, their medical costs will probably be higher than a normal person in the city.
Well, he stated, I think the last time he was here, that they do have a problem. They're going to the guy in the truck, so the other guy doesn't have to lift and hurt his back.
No, but
right?
I'm saying that the computation of the premium for Blue Cross, there's nothing involved there. It'd only be in workman's comp,
Yeah, that would be
Yes,
a work.
exactly.
but not in health premiums.
Are we talking about wastewater or solid waste?
Anywhere in your whole
Solid,
area.
you were talking about solid waste, and you
Waste,
said
yeah.
that back problems would be alleviated.
Bristol almost eliminated in that department, we're talking solid waste,
Sorry.
their workers' comp claims. We spend about $125,000 a year workers' comp just in that department. So that's the anticipation we think.
And mostly back injuries.
It could be knees, backs. I mean, if you get in a truck and you see how many times you're getting up and down,
In and out,
200-300 times a day, it's a lot of wear and tear.
Okay. But this right here is just benefits, is just other than that, it's not workers' comp.
No, workers' comp would be on it would be on another area. We're on wastewater now?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if I could give you all some information,
No.
we have an acting foreman that's been in the position for almost actually a year.
Right.
Ed Kozlowski has done a tremendous job. Last year, the town paid the state about $30,000 for nitrogen, to purchase nitrogen credits. I talked to Ed this morning. We anticipate getting a check for about $160,000, and that's directly associated with Ed and the work he's done in the town. So it's really a turn of about $190,000 positive to the city. And we hope he changed the processing at the plants, and we're cautiously optimistic that that trend will continue. It's one of the things that I haven't spoken to the mayor, so I apologize, but looking at it, there's a lot of different ways. They have different stipends and stuff for the superintendent's position. What I want to try to do is eliminate those and just have a base salary that it has, so that's something that I'll probably come before you and look at that for that position. Because there is a stipend component on it.
So
that's one of the things that this board has really harped on over previous years, is the nitrogen credits. When we did
Yeah, right.
our 2 wastewater treatment plants, there was the expectation that we would not have to pay for nitrogen,
Right.
we would be receiving some credits, and Ed Kozlowski has done a tremendous job making those plants run more efficient, and again, getting $150,000, $160,000 in credits versus having to pay a substantial amount.
Yeah.
So that's good news.
And it's not just the nitrogen, the other thing that he brought in, we were using a chemical called micro-C. This is about just talking with other towns that do it. And it removes nitrogen, it's an added feature, so when you have high flows, when you have a lot of nitrogen in it, you put the chemical in, it brings more nitrogen out of the discharged water. We reduced that by probably close to $40,000 in expense. And then he went further, he brought in a competing company that was more effective at removing it for the same cost per gallon that we were buying micro-C for. So he's really looking at things. And there's a lot of opportunities in the town as a whole, but in that department especially.
Mm-hmm. Didn't that fluctuate, that nitrogen credit? One year we were getting it, and one year we weren't getting it, and then...
Well, for years, we were paying it.
Yeah,
And
no,
when
and then
put
we
the new
came in
systems
the positive, and then it went out again.
Right, exactly.
It did, and,
We had some processing issues. Some equipment.
oh, that's right, we did have a equipment problem, that's right. That's right. I'm all on that.
I don't see a revenue or an expenditure line for the credits.
It's on page 103, and we had a placeholder of $1. We could technically correct that figure based on the final figures from the state. I don't know, you said that the superintendent did tell you the amount, but usually the state emails or communicates with Peter's office the exact amount, and we actually paid for the previous year's credits in the subsequent year's budget. So the 2016-17 budget will pay for the nitrogen from the 15-16 fiscal year.
But, okay, but if we receive revenue, don't we usually have a revenue line for nitrogen?
We don't have a revenue line. It's stipulated that goes into the debt service reserve fund, which helps lower the debt service
I like
costs
that.
for the sewer bonding.
I love that. Anytime we get that debt service done, boy.
Okay, that's revenue, thank you.
So, did you say that these were gonna be about 190,000 before?
I said last year we paid 30.
Yeah.
This year we anticipate money coming back for 160 for a total turn of 190.
Okay, so 160.
Yeah, 160.
Be in the revenue source. Yeah, wow. That's super. Pretty good.
Work.
That's and it's not just that, it's the whole department. They really he's done a lot of work down there, updating some of the equipment that needed updating. And he's a very progressive foreman or superintendent. You know, he's always looking to put new equipment in, more automated equipment.
Further on wastewater?
That'll be the 160 be at the end of this fiscal year, is that what you're saying?
That's what the mayor said. I didn't know that, to be honest.
We pay for the previous years in the present year budget. So the number that we will be emailed from the state, we will know that before the budget is finalized.
Oh, good.
I don't like that smile. That's about it.
Great. He's funny.
But it's gonna be budget neutral if it goes into the.
That won't be
budget neutral.
Well, the 30, the expenditure won't be out.
No, but our debt service figure will be a little bit lower because it'll be applied. Our expense on the debt service,
But
right?
not the full 160. We level it, we amortize it over.
What's that nonsense?
Amortize the
What it's helped, what it's primarily helped is, if you remember those, the amount of work we did to upgrade the wastewater treatment plants, one of the bigger loans, one of the big clean water loans was like over 20 years, and, you know,
So we're gonna amortize that?
we spread it out over the life of the loan.
We only have 5 years left of the loan?
No, I
Is it
think more
20?
than 5. One smaller loan is done, but we have 3 others that are
So let's
outstanding.
apply it to the smaller one, that,
So you reduce the interest cost every year by the amortized amount?
Yeah, we have a
Right, it's an
formula.
offset to the interest.
Yeah, we
someone
help.
will get it, but it's not very much.
But next year, if you get another 160, then that goes in that, you amortize that too, right? And,
Yes, and some of it's for, for the future, to have a reserve, because we are taking on a lot of debt with the bonding that we're doing.
One of the things we're trying to do too is, when I was speaking with that today, is we're looking to try to put money into like lining some of these sewers, especially the main lines that are down in the beach communities where we have a lot of I&I infiltration. Because what happens is when you have high flow, especially slow water, it throws your processing off. So even though we want to invest too, that's our biggest thing.
Hey. Are you in the sewer commission now?
I am.
Yeah,
I don't have
that's
any questions
usually,
on it.
just a,
That's a wash.
yeah, it's a wash.
That's a small account.
For the record, sewer commission form 154, fund 12, page 98.
Why do we have this?
Basically, that's it.
What is sewer administrative services, what is that? Is that secretarial fee?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah?
Contractually, the mayor actually, there used to be, I think it was supposedly higher than that.
There used to be 3 employees in this department.
Right.
We brought it back to 1. And then last year, or the year before, we actually were able to just have it be a stipended position so that there's an employee in engineering where a small percentage of her salary is out of the sewer commission budget,
Oh.
and another portion of her salary is out of the engineering department budget. And she serves both functions, whereas several years ago, we had 3 employees in sewer.
Yeah.
It's one of the things we're trying to do, we're trying to automate, get everything digitalized in that department. That's one of the things this year we're hoping to, but we're actually working even through the winter on the Norfolk Ave project. We're gonna take that inspector and be doing a lot more work, but we've been working every day as an inspector.
Any other departments, are there any further questions for Public Works Director?
No, at all.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, man.
Anyone else?
Appreciate it.
Okay. 4503, Public Debt Service, page 78.
The good news is that we are in the process within the next week or so, Peter,
Yes.
of going out for a bond refunding. The bond refunding will be spread out over several years. In the past, I think 4 years, we refunded about $3.4 million. Actually, we refunded, that's the savings that we've gotten for the city. And we spread it out over several years. But we're going out again within the next week or so for about $15 million worth of bond refunding. And we're hoping to get hopefully $500,000 approximately.
Yeah, we've done.
It's like refinancing
Refinancing.
bonds that have come due.
Okay.
Refinancing or refunding bonds that are eligible to be
Rolling over?
refunded. Pardon me?
Rolling over time?
No.
No, not rolling them over.
Basically reissuing them.
Reissuing them, like
At a
defeasing
lower
them.
rate.
The money goes into escrow to pay off the older bonds, and then we issue new
Bonds.
refunding bonds at a lower interest rate.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. So these are not projections, Peter, these are actual?
These are actual, these are
Actuals,
not
right.
projected, these are
Okay.
actuals. The only thing projected is I have to factor in the May bond interest, which is influenced by what the bond issue will be in November of 2016, which we don't know yet until we do that debt issue.
School debt service, page 93. That's fund 4994. $4995, employee benefits, non-teaching. $4710, employee benefits, general, page 84. Peter, on our OPEB, how much do we have in the trust fund at this point?
We have about approximately $4.6 million. It fluctuates as the market.
So last year wasn't a good year.
It wasn't a good year.
For a pension or for a trust.
It was going down, you know, a few couple of $100,000 of the market.
In the first 2 months of this year, not
I don't even want to ask. How does that compare to other municipalities of our size? Are we?
I think in terms of the state of Connecticut, we are one of the best. As some cities and towns don't even have an OPEB trust.
Bristol, Connecticut has always been ranked as the most well-funded pension fund in the state, followed by Milford. Milford, New Canaan, Greenwich, and Bristol are really the four municipalities that people point to in terms of the most well-funded. But again, we are not 100% funded.
No, no, we're not even close, but at least we're in the top tier of municipalities, at least trying to address the issue.
Pension, we should be pretty good.
That's for pension, not for OPEB.
Not for OPEB.
Not for OPEB.
Milford is not unique, but we're ahead of the curve in the sense that we have an OPEB trust.
Right, that was my
And that we
question.
are funding pay-as-you-go in addition to addressing future liabilities through the trust. But
and this OPEB trust is for the city side only. Board of Ed does not have an OPEB. So they are strictly pay-as-you-go, whereas the city is pay-as-you-go plus our contribution to the trust and the trust balance.
But the OPEB trust that you had mentioned earlier, that's the 4.5.
That's about the 4.6 million. That's the city OPEB trust.
So, account 4211, that is current
Contribution.
cost,
For which line, pension or OPEB?
employee benefits.
No, it's not even close to what the recommended amount would be.
No, the recommended amount is much higher.
That's not the current funding, the current expenditure?
No. It's, how much do we pay out, a year in terms of?
Yeah, we pay about
17 million?
Yeah, in terms of the pay-as-you-go portion?
No, he's talking about, in terms of employee deductions, how much does the pension fund pay out for employee deductions each year? Probably the HR director would be best positioned to answer that question.
Pension, you're talking about OPEB pension?
Withdrawals a year, annual withdrawals.
No, wait.
What is 4211?
Can you give me the last four digits? Because there's a bunch of
9905.
9905?
Right.
Oh, that's the pension fund, yes.
No, you want to know 9, don't you?
No, 9905 is the pension fund, yes.
That's the pension fund.
No.
That is what we put in?
That is our,
Oh, okay.
represents our contribution toward the actuarial, it used to be called the actuarial required contribution, now they call it the actuarial determined employer contribution. That's the employer contribution to the pension fund. And it's,
Okay, so that's our contribution.
that's our recommended budgeted contribution.
And that comes from an actuary, the actuary?
The actuarial number is higher, but because we're trying to, smooth out the impact to the annual general fund budget, we've calculated 115% of the prior year's budgeted contribution to come to this number.
And there are a couple things that are driving down our liabilities. We just renegotiated our fire and police pension contract this last year. And there were several provisions of it which we'll see the results of that as of July 1st, which is when the actuaries reevaluate the addict. And things like for new employees, for fire and police, new employees, their pension will be capped at their base salary as opposed to their base salary plus their overtime. So essentially, new employees will almost in a lot of cases have half of the salary that existing employees will have, because oftentimes in the final couple of years, people max out overtime.
At which departments are we?
Fire and police, which are the richest pension benefits in the city.
Yeah, it's fire and police. Okay.
And there's other provisions too that are going to limit our liabilities into the future. Because again, this pension is not based on what we're going to spend over the next couple of years, but 50 years into the future.
Right. Now, has that already been negotiated, those two?
Yep, it's been approved.
Good, okay.
And just a question, this must be an accounting situation. Why aren't these pension for the police, the fire, why aren't they under their budget rather than their regular budget rather than under this employee benefit budget? Is it for your accounting purposes, maybe?
For accounting, but also from, the consolidated employee benefit, it's the city as the employer.
Right.
Our contribution as an employer of all these employees, all these departments to make that contribution. So yes, you could attribute some of it to financial reporting, accounting.
That's good.
Okay, if there's no further questions, 4720 insurance and bonds, excuse me, page 85.
Peter, what hit us and where things going on?
What hit us is that unlike the health insurance fund, the workers' comp fund, the claims have not, we haven't seen much of a reduction. It's been gradually increasing over time. And so we've been, trying to keep the contribution each year relatively flat and using part of the fund balance in the workers' comp fund to offset it, similar to what we do in the general fund. But now we've reached a point where we're not generating enough surplus in the workers' comp fund each year to replenish the fund balance. So the fund balance is decreased. So we have no choice now but to put in a much higher amount so that we don't deplete the fund balance to below zero.
So this basically, I'm sorry.
We self-insure that?
We self-insure,
And
yes.
do we have an administrator?
Yes, we have a third-party administrator, PMA, that helps us with that.
Did they tell us that we had to?
No, we've hired an independent actuary that does a report each year for the workers' comp fund and helps calculate and analyze the recommended contribution at different levels.
Okay. So So the number basically came from the actuary?
Yes.
Or a number?
The city accountant helps me come to this number. We look at all the budget line items within the fund, the use of fund balance, and then we also look at the projected claims from the actuary and their recommended contribution, weigh that in to make sure we put an appropriate amount.
Does the administrator come up with like the loss runs and update those loss runs?
Yes, that, the actuary requests that from the administrator each year, yes.
Almost, you got it.
4740 claims and refunds. I guess my question is on 4840 heart and hypertension claims, is that similar? Is that a number base provided by the actuary?
That's similar, but we don't use an actuary here. Myself, the city accountant, Kim Kell, our risk manager, based on, potential settlements that may need to be done and based on the claims experience, we come up with that number. But it's, if we hired an actuary, I'm almost certain they would recommend a higher number. We have to just take a chance in terms of, because we never know out of the handful of outstanding claims when they're going to settle and at what amount. We don't always have an exact number or the timing of that.
But
So,
it looks like at least for 2014, we were well below that number.
yes, yes. And so part of that money was returned to the general fund.
So it is returned to the general fund?
It's returned to the general
There's not a.
The only time it's not is if we book an accrual, like if we know the following year there's going to be say a X amount of dollars settlement for a given employee, then we would accrue for that amount so that we don't impact well, we have to accounting wise because the settlement may pertain to the old year, or we may need to accrue because it's an unknown number, so we'll estimate the accrual and that'll help alleviate the impact of the new year budget as well.
Okay.
Who's coming under that? Heart and hypertension.
Fire and police officers who were on the job prior to October 1st, 1996.
96, okay.
There's a lot of them. Still.
Can't have that many, 96.
There's one claim, there could be a claim that's
Wipe this whole thing out.
that's a $500,000 claim.
Yeah.
So you have a heart and hypertension claim where just the permanency for the claim, and we have some where the doctors have ascribed a 100% permanency rating. Let's say it's a 50% at the max comp rate, approximately $1,000 a week times 52. 52 times 720 weeks divided by 2, and that could be just a settlement on the permanency. That wouldn't include even the medical component of it or any other parts of it.
Okay, glad I asked. 4790, benefit and salary reserve, page 86.
This is the amount because the union contracts are not settled yet, so they're not reflected in the regular wages for the departments. They're reflected here.
Thank you, Peter. 4799, unallocated contingency, page 86.
Can I ask a question on those contracts? What departments do they involve?
For this budget year, it's all the bargaining units.
All the bargaining
All of
units.
them.
Okay.
For this fiscal year 17.
I think there's 9 different bargaining units on the city side, and I think that as of right now, we have 7 open, and as of July 1st, 2016, all 9 will be open unless we settle some of those prior to that. Which is likely, as the Public Works Director said.
Unallocated contingency, 4799.
Well, there's like, yeah. The election group, she was saying she was getting money out of the,
In the past,
From that account?
The bulk of the unallocated contingency over the last several years has gone into the elections account because they've run over. Again, this is unallocated contingency, we don't know where it's gonna go, but the last several years it's going to the elections
Yeah,
account.
and so we've used that for other people, but, yeah, you're
Yeah.
right, okay.
4993, education audit, page 93. And 4997, education health insurance contribution, page 94.
It's going down, Peter?
Yes.
That's good news.
That's impressive.
It's good news. I mean, there's a lot of different factors, but one primary one that's good news, for example, is that we have had 2 good years of health insurance claims. It's a cycle sometimes. It goes up, it goes down, but we've enjoyed 2 years of favorable experience.
Are there fewer employees as well?
Yeah, when the benefit eligibility audit took place, for example, we had a drop of roughly, 100 or so employees, but the
That's this year.
members come off, or subscribers.
There's a lot of different factors. The claim is one, the fact that that eligibility audit took some people off.
Right,
Right.
yeah.
Another big factor too is our plan design. When we renegotiated our contracts the last time around, our plan design, there's an incentive, instead of going to like the emergency room, which costs us a lot more money, now it has a $50 copay. So people will go to their primary care physician, which has a much less copay.
Right.
So we've tried to do things within the plan design to lower our overall costs.
Excellent.
It is excellent.
Anybody have anything further before we adjourn or recess? Thank you.
Recess,
If there's nothing else, is there a motion to recess?
So moved.
By Mr. Castagnoli, seconded by Michelle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are in recess until, what, next Wednesday, the 19th?
The 17th.
17th, thank you. And that would be education operations
yeah.
in this location, right? Yes.
Oh, yeah, yeah.